Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the world right outside your window. We're going to decode the invisible set of rules, the urban blueprint that secretly shapes pretty much everything about the city you live in.
I mean, really? Think about it for a second. Why is that high school a bit of a walk, but the little corner shop is, well, right around the corner? Do these things just happen? Is it all just some big cosmic coincidence?
Well, the short answer is no, not at all. It is anything but random. See, behind every city that actually works, there's this master document, this kind of urban blueprint. It's chock full of really specific standards and codes that planners use to build a livable, breathing community, basically from scratch. So, where do you even start with a blueprint like that? You start with the most basic building block of any city, right? Our homes. Let's dig into the rules that decide where we live and even how we live.
Okay, so the first big idea is something called residential density. Now, it sounds super technical, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just how many homes are packed into one area. Planners work with a whole range, from maybe 25 homes per hectare, picture those quiet suburban streets, all the way up to 175, which feels much more like a busy downtown. And that one number, it basically sets the entire vibe for your neighborhood.
But it's not just about how tightly packed the houses are. A good blueprint actually plans for a mix of people. So it sets out minimum plot sizes for different income levels. You might have smaller, more affordable plots starting at just 30 square meters, right alongside these much larger properties of 500 square meters or more. The whole point is to create a city that has room for everyone. Okay, so we've got our houses figured out, but a bunch of houses isn't really a community, is it? Not yet. So let's move on to the next layer of the blueprint, building the social hubs, the places that actually bring us all together. This is basically the recipe for creating a neighborhood that can stand on its own 2 feet. And what's so smart about it is how everything is scaled based on population. For every 5,000 people, the blueprint says you need a primary school, some local shops, a daycare, and they should all be a short walk away. Once that community grows to, say, 15,000 people, the plan calls for bigger things, like a high school or a health clinic. It's like a formula for making life convenient. And here's where you see the real-world impact of a number on a page. The standard says a primary school should be within about 800 meters. For a little kid, that's roughly a 10-minute walk. That's not just a statistic. That's a choice that makes communities safer and helps kids be a little more independent. Of course, a great community is more than just concrete and buildings. We need room to breathe. So, moving on from schools and shops, let's talk about the city's green lungs, the parks and open spaces that are so important. This right here is the gold standard. Urban planning guidelines say that for every single person living in the city, there should be between 10 and 12 square meters of open space. To put that in perspective, that's like having a space the size of a small bedroom just for you, out in the open air. And that space isn't just one giant park that's impossible to get to. No, the blueprint is smarter than that. It spreads it out so you have these little green courtyards right in your housing area. Then you have bigger neighborhood parks for a community of about 15,000, and then you have the huge district parks that serve the entire city. It's a whole network, designed so everyone has easy access to some green space. All right, time for the final and maybe most critical piece of this entire puzzle. Let's talk about the lifelines. This is the invisible network of pipes and wires and services that we almost never see, but that keeps our cities alive and running every single day. 135. Remember that number. That is the magic number when it comes to water. It's the minimum number of liters per capita per day, or LPCD, that the blueprint says every single person needs. So what does 135 liters actually get you? Well, it turns out 135 liters is a pretty solid amount. It's enough to cover all your daily essentials, cooking your meals, doing a load of laundry, and yeah, even taking a couple of decent showers. It's a standard that just makes sure our most vital resource is always there when we need it. Now, let's look at a lifeline that's all about safety. The National Building Code is deadly serious about this one. It states that in an emergency, a fire truck has to be able to get to any building, anywhere, within 3 to 5 minutes. Just think about that. That is an incredibly small window of time. And that one rule, that tiny response time, has a massive direct impact on how our cities are built.
To make sure those huge fire trucks can get through, the blueprint requires that any road leading to a high-rise building has to be at least 9 meters wide. It's a perfect example of how a safety rule literally shapes the streets we drive on. So, we've walked through the blueprint for our homes, our communities, our parks, and all those invisible lifelines. It's been a lot of numbers, I know. So let's do a quick check and see what's stuck. Ready? Okay, first one. Thinking back to those community hubs, what's the ideal maximum walking distance for a kid to their primary school? If you said 800 meters, you got it. That's that magic 10-minute walk we were talking about. A tiny detail in the blueprint with a huge impact on family life. All right, next up, what about those invisible lifelines? What was that minimum amount of water planners have to budget for each person every day? Yep, it's 135 liters. That's what it takes to cover our cooking, our cleaning, and a couple of showers. And here's the key takeaway. None of these numbers, not the plot sizes, the walking distances, the park areas, the road widths, none of them exist on their own. They all have to lock together, like pieces of a giant complicated puzzle, to create the living, breathing city that surrounds us.
But that leaves us with one last question to chew on. We've seen the blueprint, we've seen the logic, we've seen the numbers. And yeah, they can build a functional city, for sure. But do they guarantee a great one? A city that feels vibrant and creative and inspiring? That's a question that goes way beyond the blueprint, and it's something to think about next time you take a walk through your own neighborhood.